Hello, my name is Michelle DeBonis, and I'm here today to give a presentation. So, before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that if you decide to participate and you don't call out, but you raise your hand, then we will be able to leave and end our session early. Does anyone know what type of procedure I just put in place? Anyone? Don't forget to raise your hand. Great. Yes, I just put in a group contingency procedure. That is what we are going to discuss today. So let's get started. Group contingencies. What is a group contingency? A group contingency is a behavior management protocol where a single consequence is given based on the behavior of an individual in a group, the behavior of a particular set of people within the group, or the group as a whole. So the entire group receives the consequence or the reinforcement depending on how the situation plays out. There are three types of group contingencies: independent, dependent, and interdependent. Let's explore those ideas a little bit further. Independent group contingency. So the definition for that is students each earn the reward when they achieve the behavioral goal established for the group. The contingency is the same for all, but each student determines his or her own access to the reward or privilege. So, for example, every student who achieves 90% or better on their Thursday spelling test gets a homework pass. That's if you're doing it with an older group of kids. If you're doing this with a younger group of children, it may be that one student needs to attend, or every student is going to attend in the group, and as long as they are able to do that, then they would be rewarded with maybe something that they decide. So maybe a certain video they want to watch or a game they want to play as a group. This could be used in a small group setting or a large group, whole group setting. Considerations for this group contingency. The reward is delivered for individual student behavior, so peer influence is minimal and there is little risk for peer pressure. However, this means there is also minimal peer momentum to support the target behavior. So that means that they're all not working towards the same goal as a whole, but more on an individual basis. So you kind of lose the momentum of the whole group in this setup. Dependent group contingency. This is when the whole group is based on the performance of either an individual or collection of individuals within the group. That can sometimes mean it's called the hero procedure when an individual earns a reward for the whole group. Typically, it's one student or a few students that are going to be earning the reward for the entire group. So for this example, if one specific student receives 3 or fewer marks for talking out during a period, then the entire class earns 5 minutes of free time. However, the consideration for this is, although it is reinforcing probably for all of the students, sometimes it can create some behaviors against the students. So you want to make sure that it's set up for it to be beneficial for everyone involved and ensure that the student is capable of earning the target behavior so that socially there are no repercussions. Interdependent group contingency. What this means is that the class or the groups within the class earns a reward when the group meets an established goal. The group's behavior determines if the group can gain access to the reward or privilege. So an example would be when the entire class is on time and seated at the beginning of history class for 1 week, every class member earns 10 bonus points on the weekly test. The consideration for this group contingency is that the reward is delivered interdependent of group behavior. So earning the reward is based on the collective behavior of the class or groups. This contingency applies positive peer influence. However, look out for students that may want to disrupt those or blame other peers for not earning the group. So with everything always comes the question of, is this what's best for your group or not? So that was a very brief description of what group contingencies are. I want you to take a minute to think about your classroom and where you might be able to include a group contingency. What type of contingency would you use? You need to determine the target behavior you want to change. How many students would you include? Would it be dependent where it's just one student, or would it be independent where it might be more than one student? What would the reward be? And how long do you think you would want to make the contingency? So would it be an immediate reinforcement where they get it right after the assignment, or would it be delayed where it would be over the course of a week? And then we'll share out what you came up with. So as I was hearing some of you talk about your group contingencies with your table, I noticed that some of you wanted to use rewards that would be immediate reinforcement. I like that idea because then the students remember what it is that they did well and they're being reinforced right away. So it kind of sticks with them a little longer. Where you could probably use a delayed reinforcement with an older group, maybe in middle school or high school or fifth grade, where they would be able to sustain and maintain these expectations over a longer period of time, and then have a reward at the end of the day. So now you want to be able to implement a group contingency. The first thing you need to do is determine the target behavior you want to change. That means that you can either increase the behavior or you may want to decrease the behavior. Then you're going to look to see if you can select the most appropriate group contingency for your kids. That is one that would benefit them the most. Then you need to set appropriate performance criterion with a behavior goal for the students to earn the reward. Make it easy to achieve. You don't want it to be something that they aren't going to be able to do, because you want to be able to use this group contingency throughout over a course or period of time and not just one time. So if it's easier to access the reward and achieve the goal, then they will be able to do this and maintain it over a period of time, and the behavior that you want to increase or decrease will then be sustainable. Choose an effective reward and include students' input on identifying multiple options. This is where you want to be able to give student choice. Students will tell you what they want to work for. Make it something that is going to be fun and enjoyable and that they can really have access to quite easily. So maybe that's something where they do a board game afterwards, or you can even implement the game into the contingency, things like that. And then you want to implement the contingency plan and be consistent with your expectations and the consequences. So you're always going to state what your expectation is and what the consequences are if they don't follow that expectation, so that all the parameters of your contingency plan are explicitly explained. I like to use pom-poms, and I like to fill a jar, and sometimes they will have to get the whole jar if it was an older class, maybe over the course of the week. Or sometimes what you could do for the younger students, you can put a line and they would each get one pom-pom if they're following directions, and put it in the jar, and they would only have to fill it to a line. So these are some ideas that you can use in your classroom to implant a group contingency. Thank you so much for listening to me and watching my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Have a great day.